So I've had a couple videos, and one video in particular directed at David Vonderhaar years and years and years ago, back when Black Ops 2 was the most recent Call of Duty, and those videos at that time were pretty much my most successful videos, where I come home from work really angry, sweaty, gross, hair's all fucked up, beard is... well, it was not looking good at that time. But even now, we struggle here and there, but I originally made this what the fuck Vonderhaar video. I think that's what it was called. WTF Vonderhaar. Basically, the whole video started out with me like screaming and talking about how everything is Vonderhaar's fault and anything that's wrong with this game is Vonderhaar's fault and blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, at that time, I mean, I've grown up a little bit. I try not to be as harsh with a lot of these opinions at this point anymore, because I've learned to actually put myself in somebody else's shoes. And yeah, it just wasn't really a fair assessment, but a lot of people at that time loved that video. Like, next to the rage charges, all those videos that I made ranting about, like, you know, SMGs, LMGs, everything that was wrong with Black Ops 2 at the time, I would make a rant video as soon as I got home from work.
My fucking ass! Fucking idiot! Trying to snipe and he's fucking up my ass. Fucking.
Oh shit. That's demonetized if I didn't mute that right there. This guy's so pissed off. So ever since that point forward, a lot of people hated David Vonderhaar. They hated a lot of the Treyarch games that were going to be coming out and stuff, at least because they had this, you know, they know that they don't like snipers. So snipers were always just not that big of a fan of David Vonderhaar because he always believed that, like, quick scoping should, if it doesn't exist, it should be, like, much weaker than, you know, it is, you know, in MW2 and all that shit, which is completely understandable, honestly, because back on MW2, MW3, it was crazy. I mean, all of the red guns as well were, like, complete lasers and shit back on those games as well, but I can totally see where they're coming from with toning it down and everything, right? But after you take away the aim assist and the sleight of hand pro and slow scope speeds and all this other shit, like, I mean, I don't know what else you want me to do. Like, that's just, you're gonna have to change the entire sniper class in general if you want to somehow fix quick scoping. Maps will probably have to be bigger, blah, blah, blah. Recently, I would say around a week ago, 4 or 5, maybe more days ago, there was a patch that came out that ended up buffing the SMGs. They fixed the sprint out times on them. They basically made it faster from, you know, when you're sprinting with an SMG to the point to where you're able to shoot. They made that faster. So people with SMGs, when they run around a corner against somebody with an AR or whatever, will be able to pull up their gun faster. So it feels more like, you know, an SMG. With sniper rifles, they kind of did the opposite. Now, although they didn't touch the sprint out time, they nerfed the ADS time, which was already the average amount of time in every other Call of Duty that doesn't have sleight of hand in it. If it's not the exact same, it's very, very close. And I mean, honestly, I've been playing just like as I'm talking here in the intro, and I don't really, I can feel this nerf, but not really. Like, it can still do the same exact thing that you've been doing this entire time. Ever since the Black Ops 2 nerf and how difficult it was to snipe on Black Ops 1, which was arguably the hardest quick scoping there was, just because it was that insanely weak. I could talk about the Black Ops 1 launch snipers like all day and shit, like talk about exactly how everybody was making that work for the amount of time that it was that bad. I won't go into too much detail about it, but basically you scope in, no sleight of hand, okay? Now this is coming off of what? MW2, right? So you're used to this super fast shit. There's no sleight of hand, so it weakens them. There's also this sway as soon as you go into the scope, which like moves all around, which was completely new. It was kind of like this. Hold on. Let's hold our breath here. Wait until we run out of breath. All of that movement right there was there as soon as you went into the scope like that. Even though it's swaying all over the place like that, even if the crosshair was on top of somebody and you shot, the bullet was not going to go there. It was almost as if you were no-scoping at that point. It would just shoot in that bloom area. It wasn't accurate until you held the scope down for, I think, 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds or something. And on top of that, they weren't always consistent one-shots either, because the HP on Black Ops 1, since there was no stopping power, it was kind of like playing MW2 with nobody using stopping power. It just felt really strange. Obviously, they had plenty of one-shot potential and everything, but there were definitely a good amount of hit markers on the game. So people knew from the start, just looking at Black Ops 1 and how they nerfed the snipers on BO2 and everything, people know as soon as you're about to play a Treyarch game, sniping is not going to be, you know, the strongest it's ever been. It's going to be weaker than it is usually in you know, Infinity Ward games or something. Infinity Ward, from what I know, I think they still have aim assist, right? I didn't play much IW, so I'm not really sure. Black Ops 3 got rid of that, you know, ridiculous super nerfing kind of shit, and they just took away the aim assist and everything. Doesn't have sleight of hand, obviously. We haven't had sleight of hand on snipers for years. People played MW3 as well, and Sledgehammer didn't really have this, you know, reputation where they really went at snipers, you know? And now after, you know, they're taking more and more community feedback, which I feel like is a good thing. They're being a little bit more active with all the nerfs and stuff that they're doing. I still think they need to be more active with just the community in general, but people over the past couple months have been turning their backs on Sledgehammer at this point, and now, you know, with the sniper nerf and everything, a lot of people that I know about, and at least in the sniping community, people have been playing the game less and less. A lot of big Call of Duty YouTubers have moved over to Fortnite because they're probably sick and tired of seeing all the people in the comments comment section talking about how much they don't like the game, and maybe even the YouTubers themselves, they don't like the game. I'm just thinking from my perspective, I personally enjoy the game. I personally like making videos on Call of Duty and stuff, but if people, you know, don't like seeing it, I can't do it, you know? So Call of Duty at this point on YouTube is just not in its best shape. So I'm not really sure if this patch was already in the works. It probably was with, you know, Michael Condrey still being there, but Michael Condrey, Glenn Schofield, those guys ended up moving over to Activision away from Sledgehammer. They got some new position over in Activision or something, and a new guy comes in to replace Condrey, obviously, and he has to be the guy that talks to everybody, and he has to take up the reins. So this guy gets into the office, and then a couple days later, this patch comes out, and a lot of people are saying like, oh, this guy listens really quickly, he's doing a really great job, and some people aren't really sure if he was working on that patch or not. All this other shit, we don't know exactly all of, you know, how everything works behind the scenes, how decisions are made in all these companies differently and all this other stuff. We just don't know for sure. Honestly, the ADS time nerf on this game, if you go back and watch like another World War II video that I made before the patch came out, that was before the nerf, and I mean, I don't really see that much of a difference with the ADS. I really don't. I don't think this nerf is that big of a deal. I know it's there, but if you didn't tell me, I just might feel like maybe I'm having a slow day or something. I don't know. A day where I feel like everything's moving a little bit slower. Like this is maybe like just a few frames slower. I don't even know. If like in a comparison video, this only seems like maybe a few frames difference. And I know a couple frames, a couple milliseconds makes a big difference in Call of Duty when you die this quickly, but I thought this nerf was like way worse with the way that people were, you know, blowing. I did see some other people be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I didn't know if they were just trying to be, you know, tough and just be like, oh, bring it on, I can do anything. But in reality, it is a pretty bad nerf. But no, I mean, it's, I guess, I don't know. If you heard all about this nerf and you didn't even bother, like, or even caring about it, or you're still completely done with it, whatever. Understandable, but you can go and check it out. It's really not that big of a deal. If you think it's some crazy nerf and you're just like, nah, I'm not even gonna try, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just, I'm telling you, percentages, just a small percentage slower. Might be slightly noticeable if you didn't know about it. Might be a little exaggerated if you do know about it, but yeah, it's whatever. Anyway, yeah, tomorrow probably Requise, maybe Fortnite, not really sure. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. My most recent videos will pop up on the screen here. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed, and yeah, it's been Jev, guys. Later. I got pussy in my DNA.